My son told me straight up I wasn't welcome at his wedding, then had the nerve to send me an $80,000 bill to help fund his over-the-top party and honeymoon in Hawaii. He even added a smug line at the end. Be sure to thank me for letting you contribute. I didn't explode. I just gave a thin smile, letting the heat in my chest harden into something sharper, cold determination. If he thought his picture-perfect dream wedding was going to sail smoothly, he had another thing coming. Before I go further, hit that subscribe button and drop in the comments where you're listening from. I was sitting at my kitchen table that quiet October afternoon in Lexington, the pale sunlight filtering through old curtains. That morning, the mailman had dropped off a thick cream-colored envelope. Daniel's tidy handwriting stretched across the front. For a moment, I let myself believe it was finally the wedding invitation. After months of silence, my fingers lingered on the seal, hope sparking where disappointment had lived. I opened it carefully, expecting to see a date, a location, maybe even a note asking me to walk him down the aisle like we'd once joked about. But there was no invitation. Instead, paper slid out, a neat stack of itemized bills, polished and professional, totaling 80 grand. My eyes moved down the page. $50,000 for renting some sprawling estate outside Lexington, with gardens clipped like magazine photos and chandeliers that dripped crystal. Another $20,000 for catering, lobster shipped from Maine, fine wines imported across the ocean. 10 grand for a honeymoon suite in Maui, with its own private beach. And at the bottom, Daniel's handwriting again. Dad, after all the trouble you've caused this family, consider yourself lucky I'm letting you contribute. This is your share. Send the check soon. Sophia and I are counting on it. I stared at that note, the smooth paper cool beneath my fingers. Trouble? He meant the accusations he'd hurled during our last fight, blaming me for not climbing higher in my engineering career, for the modest life we lived after his mother died. My hand shook as I set the paper down, the neat rows of expenses blurring. Beside me on the table sat a framed photo, Daniel as a boy, toothy grin, clutching my hand after a little league hit. How had that child turned into this man, treating me like a bank account, cutting me out of his big day because I didn't match his shiny image? The shock hit like a blast of cold water, tightening my chest. I crumpled the note, the sound brittle as autumn leaves, then smoothed it again. I wasn't going to lose myself to blind anger. I pushed back from the table, joints stiff, and stood. The kitchen seemed smaller, heavy with ghosts of family dinners. I splashed water on my face at the sink, but the sting stayed. Daniel thought he could push me out and still drain my savings. The savings I'd scraped together through years of overtime, through cut corners after Maya's death in 2015. He'd even once called me after her funeral, cold and sharp, saying, "You should have done more, Dad." For all of us. I went back to the table and picked up my father's old pocket watch, its chain worn from decades of hard work. The steady ticking in my palm was a reminder of what family was supposed to mean. But Daniel had severed that bond. Sophia had whispered that my small pension and plain life would embarrass their crowd of tech executives. That thought curled my lips into a bitter smile. The pain twisted, hardening into something else, resolve. I folded the bill neatly and slid it aside. Deep inside, a spark caught fire. A plan began to take shape. The numbers stared back at me, taunting, but my anger cooled into clarity. If Daniel thought he could pull my strings, he was wrong. A direct showdown would only end the same way, him brushing me off. So instead, I'd collect information, search for the cracks in his picture-perfect story. My old laptop sat on the counter, dusty but ready. Time to dig. The spark stayed alive as I reached for the photo again, lifting it this time. Daniel's young face smiled back, innocent, from a stormy afternoon at Jacobson Park when he was 8. He had climbed onto my lap, hiding his face in my shoulder while rain hammered the car roof. "Don't worry, Dad," he'd whispered. "You're the strongest." I had held him close, promising to protect him, while Maya sat beside us with her warm, steady smile. Now I paced the kitchen, floorboards groaning under my steps, the smell of stale coffee hanging in the air. The memories came rushing, teaching him to swing a bat, hearing his laughter echo as he rounded the bases. Back then, we were a team, just the three of us against the world. But Maya's death had shifted everything. Daniel was 25 then, already climbing fast in tech, and he started pulling away. One night in 2016, his voice crackled over the phone, You let her down, Dad. If you'd made more money, maybe she'd still be here. I swallowed my pain, reminding him of the battles with insurance, the second mortgage I'd taken out for her treatments. But he didn't care. All he saw was a modest house and a father who hadn't delivered the flashy life he thought we deserved. Last Christmas nailed it shut. I showed up at their fancy downtown apartment with arms full of homemade tamales, the way Maya used to make. Sophia barely looked up from her phone, murmured something to Daniel that made him grin. Then he said it. Dad, we're vegan now. And honestly, you showing up uninvited? It's awkward. I left early, headlights blurring the road home, feeling like a fossil in their bright new world. And now this bill, this demand for me to bankroll their indulgence while being shoved aside, was the final insult. I clenched my fists at the window, watching the wind scatter leaves across the yard. Anger burned steady now, stronger than nostalgia. How dare he treat me like a burden, then expect gratitude for paying his way? I wasn't some helpless victim. I'd raised him alone after Maya, given up trips and comforts to build his future. And Sophia, with her luxury handbags and social media vanity, had only fed his greed. This wasn't just disappointment anymore. This betrayal called for consequences. I swore right then, quiet but absolute, that their flawless day would turn into a lesson carved into memory. Raindrops began tapping against the window, echoing the storm that churned inside me, and I turned away, my resolve hardening like steel left in the forge. A flicker of doubt slid in. Was I too old for this kind of fight? I shoved the thought aside. Justice doesn't check your birth certificate. It's about dignity, about self-respect. With that in mind, I reached for the laptop sitting on the counter. The cool metal steadied me as I got ready to dig. The old machine hummed awake in the dim light, its screen washing the cluttered table in a pale blue glow. I slid into the chair, the rain now pounding steadily outside, and opened the browser with deliberate clicks. Daniel had his social media locked down tight, but Sophia? She couldn't resist bragging. Her posts were a parade of excess, each one like a knife twist. Can't wait for our dream wedding at the Ashford estate. Blessed trust, luxury living. One detail jumped off the screen. November 15th, 2024. Just weeks away. Pictures of the estate filled her feed, mock setups of the ballroom, chandeliers gleaming like cut glass. I poured myself a glass of the cheap red wine I'd been saving. Its bitter edge sharpened my focus. No more sitting in self-pity. Action time. I grabbed a notepad and started scribbling. Venue: Ashford Estate, 50,000. Caterer: Elite Events, 200 guests. Photographer: Hannah Drake. Portfolio linked in the comments. Sophia gushing. Gorgeous shots incoming with a trail of hearts. For a moment, I wondered if I should just call Daniel and face him head on. But no, that would hand him the satisfaction of brushing me off again. Better to work in the shadows, twist the control out of his hands. Tab after tab filled my screen. Jason Clark Weddings. His website promised seamless events for discerning clients. A LinkedIn breadcrumb confirmed he was in charge. An old colleague of Daniel's had even liked the booking post. The honeymoon details weren't hard to find either. Maui Resort, overwater bungalow, all tied to that bill they expected me to bankroll. My blood boiled hotter when I stumbled across Sophia's video, her twirling in a gown, Daniel grinning at her side. In the comments she joked, "Daddy's paying for the party." Indirectly. A winking emoji followed. Indirectly? The arrogance nearly made me choke on my wine. I kept compiling. Florist, DJ, limo service. The list grew long. Their extravagance stretched miles beyond Daniel's paycheck. For a second, hesitation tugged at me. Was I about to scorch what little tie remained between us? Then I pictured his note again, dripping with condescension. The doubt dissolved. This wasn't about revenge for revenge's sake. It was about teaching him that greed has consequences. My hand steadied on the keyboard as I copied down Jason Clark's contact number, the man pulling the strings. I drew a deep breath. Time to tug the first thread loose. I picked up the phone. My fingers hovered over the keypad. 2 rings, then a polished voice slid through. Jason Clark Events. This is Jason. How can I make your day extraordinary? I leaned against the counter, the receiver cool in my hand, keeping my breath even. Hello, Jason. This is Richard Reyes, Daniel Reyes's father, the one footing the bill for this wedding. There was a pause, then his tone warmed. Mr. Reyes, yes? Daniel said you'd be in touch about payments. We're thrilled you're contributing. The Ashford estate is nearly set, and Sophia's vision is stunning. I let him chatter about arches and quartets while my mind sharpened. Actually, Jason, I said smoothly, I'd rather go over the details in person. Tomorrow work for you? He jumped at it, offered his downtown Lexington office, 10 a.m. I ended the call with a click that echoed in the quiet kitchen. I poured another glass of wine, swirling it slowly, picturing his face when reality hit. No more notes, no more bills. This time, I'd stand in the room. The meeting with Jason was step one. Preparation mattered. I spent the evening combing through the bill again, writing down key figures, sharpening the facts. Before bed, I laid out a sweater and slacks. Nothing flashy, but respectable enough to send a message. As I stretched out that night, the plan felt like it was setting concrete under my feet. The next morning I was up early, coffee poured into a thermos, keys jangling in my hand. I drove through light traffic, autumn leaves scattering like confetti across my windshield. At a red light, hesitation gripped me. Was this the point of no return? The green blinked on, and I pressed the gas. Too late to turn back. Jason's office sat inside a sleek glass building off Main Street, worlds away from the old brick offices where I'd worked my whole career. I parked, walked into the lobby, the air smelling of cologne and money. Jason greeted me with a handshake sharp as his tailored suit and polished tie. Mr. Reyes, welcome. Coffee. He led me into a plush chair opposite his desk piled high with swatches and contracts. A framed photo of a couple under a gazebo caught my eye. Their joy was pure. Daniel wouldn't have that joy. Not on my dime. We settled in, and he flipped open the file. So, the $80,000 covers everything. Venue, catering, even the honeymoon deposit. Daniel said it's all squared away. I leaned forward, voice even, calm but cutting. Did he? Did Daniel also tell you he banned me from this wedding? That I'm not even invited to the spectacle I'm supposed to pay for? Jason's eyes widened. His pen slipped from his hand. Banned? No. He just said family contributions were handled. This is awkward. Awkward. I shot back sharp. Try insulting. He sent me a bill with a note saying I should be grateful. After everything. Jason rubbed his temple, faltering. I don't know what to say. The contracts are signed, but without full payment. Deposits are non-refundable. The balance. Exactly, I cut in. Tell Daniel the wedding stops cold until he faces me directly. No money leaves my pocket otherwise. And if he pushes, remind him just how fragile plans can be. Jason nodded slowly, still stunned. I'll call him today. A few quiet days passed after my meeting with Jason. I kept busy with small preparations, installing a couple of apps, testing camera angles around the house, even walking the block just to clear my head. But I knew the calm wouldn't last. The storm was finally breaking. My phone lit up, notifications stacked high. 3 voicemails, a stream of texts flashing urgent. I sat at the kitchen table under the weak overhead bulb, shadows climbing the walls, and pressed play on the first message. Dad, it's Daniel. There's been a misunderstanding with the payments. The planner called, said you pulled out? Call me back right away. We need to straighten this out. His voice tried to sound calm, but gravel edged its way in. I played it again, listening closely. The panic was there, bubbling under the surface. Misunderstanding. Like his bill and ban were just accidents. The second voicemail came in Sophia's sharp tone. Richard, it's Sophia. Daniel's upset. The vendors are threatening to cancel without your contribution. Don't do this, it's petty. Her voice was clipped, superior, like a teacher scolding a child. Petty. The word stung, but I only smiled faintly and sipped my tea. Ryan had warned me. When they got desperate, the accusations would come. Then the third. Daniel again. This time his urgency cranked up. Dad, seriously, answer me. Everything's falling apart. You owe us this after everything. The pause in his breath carried the weight of old grudges. I listened twice more, noting the higher pitch, the cracks in his control. Rumors must have started spreading. Jason had delivered. The phone rang later from Mrs. Whitman, a neighbor and old friend. Her voice wavered. Richard, I heard whispers at the club. Daniel's wedding in trouble? Folks saying it's money? Are you all right? I hadn't expected gossip to travel so fast, but it gave me a jolt of satisfaction. For once, I held the reins. As I set the phone down, another voicemail dropped in. Daniel again, his voice cracking. If you don't fix this, you'll regret it. The threat hung in the room, circling in my mind. The next evening the phone rang again, insistent like a heartbeat. I had the recorder app open and ready. I let it buzz 4 times before answering, a deliberate pause to shake him. Hello, Daniel. Dad, finally. What the hell is going on? Jason says you won't pay. You're sabotaging our wedding. His voice shot high with frustration. I walked slow across the carpet, breathing steady. Sabotaging? You banned me. Then you mailed me a bill like I was some sponsor, not your father. Remember your note. Be grateful? Silence. Then he burst back. Look, it's not like that. Sophia's friends, the crowd, your retired dad. It just wouldn't fit. But the money? You owe it. After Mom, after the struggles you caused. The jab at Maya hit like a thorn digging deeper, but I stayed calm, letting every word record. Oh, we're back to blame? I raised you alone. I sold what I had for her care. And now you ignore me, push me aside. No, Daniel. No payment. You're ruining everything. He shouted, voice raw. Sophia's furious. The caterers need deposits. The estate's holding the date, but threatening fees. Fix it. I paused, my eyes resting on the pocket watch ticking on the table, a reminder of dignity that endures. Fix what you broke. Talk to me like a son, not like a banker. Then another voice cut in, Sophia's. They had me on speaker. Richard, this is ridiculous. We're building a life here. Your pettiness could cancel it all. Think of the embarrassment. Her tone dripped with disdain. Embarrassment. I snapped. Like banning your father-in-law while sending me a bill for the honeymoon I'm supposed to fund? That embarrassment? Daniel jumped back in, defensive. It's duty, Dad. Family contributes. Admit it. You're jealous of my success. Jealousy. The excuse spilled out, and it exposed everything. The ego, the entitlement. Success built on using people? Not anymore. The line hissed with his breathing, heavy and uneven. You'll regret this. We're done. He hung up, leaving silence roaring in my ears. His words were meant to break me, but instead they showed me a crack, a vulnerability I could use. I paced the hallway, the hum of the fridge the only sound. Then a new alert chimed, Ryan again. Update, vendors demanding payment. Rumors spreading at the estate. Photos incoming. The attachment showed blurry shots, workers standing idle, a florist van stuck at the curb. The unraveling had begun. But then Daniel's texts rolled in, stabbing across the screen. Selfish old man. Destroying our day over ego. I scrolled through them, heart steady. Another call came, this one from Mr. Dalton, my neighbor over the fence. His gravelly voice carried support. Richard, saw Daniel chewing out a delivery guy yesterday. Rude as hell, demanding discounts like he owned the street. Heard about the wedding mess. If you need backup, I'm here. Remember how he snubbed us at the block party? Acted too good for all of us. I leaned against the wall, phone to ear. Thanks, Ellis. What exactly happened with the delivery? He chuckled dryly. Guy dropped off invitations or something. Daniel lost it over a crease, said, Do you know who I am? Sophia just stood there. Folks are talking. Vendors pulling out. The picture painted Daniel's arrogance in bold strokes, mirroring how he treated me. Appreciate the intel, I told him. It keeps me moving. No problem, Ellis said, warm. You've got neighbors here. He doesn't. After we hung up, I texted Ryan back. More from the neighbor. Daniel's alienating everyone. His reply came quick. Perfect. Escalation's coming. Preparation's cracking. I set the phone down, but another message blinked onto the screen. This one from an unknown number. Maybe it was a vendor, maybe something worse. The text read, Mr. Reyes, regarding cancellation fees. The words bled off the screen, spiking fresh urgency as the mantle clock ticked louder, counting down like it knew the inevitable was closing in. November 15th, 2024. The wedding day. Dawn crept gray through the curtains while rain tapped at the panes, restless and insistent. I was already awake, the tick of last night's clock still in my head, a reminder of the pressure that had been building for days. That week had been a blur of vigilance, keeping up with Ryan's updates, brushing off Daniel's frantic texts, taking long walks in the cold Lexington air to keep my doubts at bay. Now, as I checked the weather app, it confirmed what I already felt, steady rain. A storm washing everything clean, stripping away illusions. I brewed a pot of coffee, the scent filling the house, and sat at the table with my phone ready. Ryan's shots came in one by one. A truck idling in the drive. Workers boxing untouched china back into crates. Rain turning the asphalt into a mirror. By noon, The guests had started trickling in. His photos showed them clustering under tents, umbrellas blooming like dark flowers, confusion written on their faces. One message pinged. Overheard. Where's the setup? Meanwhile, my own phone buzzed like a hornet on the table. Daniel's name, again and again. I let the calls go unanswered, the vibrations rattling against the wood. Then the voicemail stacked up. The first one broke through the quiet. Dad, send the money now. Everything's falling apart. The estate manager says they'll shut it down. His voice was cracking under the weight of desperation. A far cry from the smug superiority he'd thrown at me weeks earlier. More images rolled in from Ryan. The hall only half decorated, chairs in disarray, the musicians nowhere in sight. Then one shot froze me for a moment. Sophia, already in her gown, face twisted with anguish, rain streaking the windows behind her like tears. A flicker of guilt cut through. Was this cruelty? Had I gone too far? But then the memory of that bill hit me again. The smug note, the banishment. The doubt dissolved. Justice wasn't supposed to be gentle. By mid-afternoon, Ryan reported chaos. Guests leaving early, rumors spreading about a family feud, and missing money. I paced the living room, rain hammering the roof, picturing the whispers crawling through their circle. Another voicemail landed. Daniel again, pleading this time. Please, Dad. Wire it now. People are laughing. Help. Ryan sent over audio he'd recorded at the scene, voices muttering. This is a disaster. Poor planning. Outside my window, the rain grew heavier, sheets of water swallowing the yard. Nature itself seemed to join the reckoning. Then the phone lit up mid-ring. Daniel again. I let it slide into voicemail, that half-plea hanging in the air. But before the message could finish, pounding rattled the front door. The knock was insistent, heavy, drowned under the roar of rainwater spilling off the eaves. I moved slow, peering through the peephole. Daniel and Sophia, soaked through. Pajamas under coats, hair plastered, faces pale. I opened the door a crack, cool mist spraying in. What are you doing here? Daniel shoved forward, dripping onto the rug, his voice breaking. Dad, let us in. It's ruined. Vendors gone. Guests scattered. A joke now. Sophia hovered behind him, makeup streaked, her wedding dress peeking absurdly beneath her coat. Richard, please. Wire the money. We can still salvage something. I stepped aside reluctantly, closing the door against the storm. They stood dripping in my hallway, desperation clashing with the familiar smell of my home. Salvage? I asked. After you banned me? After demanding I pay like some silent partner? Daniel dragged a wet hand through his hair. His words cracked. It was a mistake. Sophia's idea. About the image, you know. But now it's collapsed. Please, Dad. For old time's sake. For a moment I saw him as he'd been after Maya's funeral, spitting accusations while I buried myself in work. That memory stiffened my spine. Old times. You mean when you blamed me for her death? When you ignored me until you needed money? Sophia spoke, her voice finally shaking. We didn't mean it. It's the stress. The honeymoon's booked, deposits gone. Please think of us. Think of you. I shot back, steady. Would you value me if my wallet wasn't here? Answer me that. Daniel hesitated, eyes darting. Of course. Your family. But success means standards. Please. Just transfer it. There it was, the admission. Standards over bonds. Shallow truth exposed. No, Daniel, I said firmly. This is consequence. Greed carries a price. He begged louder then, voice ragged. You're destroying us. Guests whisper. Vendors mock. Fix it, for your son. Sophia clutched his arm, whispering frantically. But I shook my head. Go. Learn from this. I moved toward the door, and that's when his final words spilled out, raw. Wait, Dad. I regret it. All of it. The rain roared as I closed the door. Their footsteps faded into the storm, his regret echoing in my ears. I sank into the armchair by the window, the storm streaking the glass. Their car lights flared once, then vanished, leaving only silence. The days that followed blurred. Neighbors' calls, whispers of curiosity, the slow burn of reflection. One evening, I tossed the original bill into the fireplace and watched it curl to ash, a quiet release. By the week's end, Ryan sent word. Full collapse. Estate refunded part, but reputation's ruined. Buzz got me new clients, thanks to the fallout. I called him, his laugh warm over the crackling line. Richard, you did it. Photos show empty tents, guests walking away, Daniel's circle whispering. Arrogance finally bit him. I leaned back, glancing at a photo album left open on the table, faded snapshots of better times. They stirred something, but not enough to undo what had been done. Appreciate your help, Ryan. It feels freeing. Anytime, he said, chuckling. Heard from him. Not since. Maybe he'll learn. We drifted into old stories, laughter easing the weight. For the first time in years, I thought about the future. Maybe even a trip for myself, unburdened. Then another surprise, an email from Mrs. Whitman. Richard, your stand inspired me. Reminded me to treasure the ties that matter. Coffee soon. The short note warmed me more than the mug in my hand. From the wreckage, new alliances were rising. I raised my cup in a solitary toast. To dignity, reclaimed. The house felt fuller now, not with things, but with self-respect. Daniel's wound would sting, but pain is often the root of growth. The edge of regret I'd heard in his voice planted a seed. Maybe, someday, it would take root. When the storm finally cleared, I stepped outside. The crisp air filled my lungs, sunlight breaking through the gray, a new path stretching forward.